Yeah. Hey. Hey. Well, yeah. Goonies never say die. You know what time it is. We got horror suspense. Listen, Kevin Trav digging in the bin. Dirty Dancing in Encino Man. You never know what you'll find in Uncle Doug's bin. What's in the bin? Yeah, Uncle Doug's bin. He's got all these flicks from way back when. Marty McFly in the DeLorean. Gotta love the Cage and whatever he's in. Face off Snake Guys, you know it's a win. What's in the bin? Yeah, Uncle Doug's bin. What's in the bin? Yeah, Uncle Doug's bin. What's in the bin? Yeah, Uncle Doug's bin. What's in the bin? Yeah, let's begin.
Welcome to Uncle Doug's DVD Bin, the podcast where we take your favorite movies, give you some facts, tell you the plot in about an hour, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, more on that later, and there might even be a few jokes along the way. I'm your host, Kevin.
And I am your other host, Travis.
Oh, Travis, I'm so happy to be here with you today, man.
Dude, it feels good. It feels good. We're getting some good weather out here. What a great day to talk about just muddy, sexually charged vampires. I'm excited.
Interview with a vampire. But before we get started on that, I have a story that I got to tell you, Travis. You're not going to believe this. Serendipity struck. I ran into Uncle Doug at the Food Lion.
Wow, the one Food Lion. That's great.
The one Food Lion. Now you live in a bustling metropolis of an area. You may not have a Food Lion, but for you, a Food Lion is the world's best grocery store. It combines two things that I love: lions and food. You don't eat lions. I want to be clear, but it's the name of the grocery store.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they do have a logo that looks a little bit like a Saint Bernard, and if it didn't have the word lion under it, you would never know. But it's a great store. My wife and I fight over it because the Food Lion's closer to her home, which is what I prefer. She's more of a Kroger gal, but I stand for the Lion. She says, your Food Lion doesn't have this. And I say, I bet they do.
That's right.
I bet they do. Let me go get it.
Travis stands for two things: the American flag and Food Lion.
Damn,
I appreciate
right.
both of that. But speaking of standing for the American flag, I ran into Uncle Doug at the Food Lion, and he's, he asked me about the podcast. I gave you all these DVDs.
Right.
What are you guys doing with them? I said, well, we did Dirty Dancing, and we tried to get it in around 30 minutes. It ended up being closer to an hour, and he just froze. He just stopped.
Oh, no.
Silent. And he reached down into the cart, and he picked up a can of potted meat.
Yeah?
And he just opened it right there in the middle of the Food Line. He opened
Wow.
a box of Ritz and just started eating them and just making eye contact the whole time.
Wow.
And without words, he was telling me, hey, man, 30 minutes is not enough. 45 is not enough. You need to make this podcast an hour.
Wow. In only the way that Uncle Doug can do. That the potted meat stare down, we've all seen it.
We've seen it. It was scary. I mean, it was legit. You don't think that another man eating potted meat and staring at you could be scary, but I felt, like that feeling when you walk into a basement, and you get that cold chill that runs up the back of your neck, and you're like, someone was definitely murdered here. That was what I felt at that moment in that Food Lion.
Man, and another shout out to Food Lion, one of the only stores that'll let you just crack open their potted meat in the store. They don't even get upset about that.
Well, who's going to stop Uncle Doug, really? I mean,
nobody.
He's got his racing fire suit on, and he's pushing two carts. That's what was impressive. But all he had in both carts was Ritz crackers in one and potted meat in the other. It was really, it was Doug. It was Uncle Doug.
He's a character, as they say. To satisfy Uncle Doug, this probably will be a 45 to 1 hour podcast from here on out. We think.
I was going to say ordeal. But
Ordeal?
podcast works too.
Right.
Yeah, that's good.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully all 6 of our listeners are really going to love it.
I think they'll love at least some of it, I think.
Well, we're definitely covering a quintessential movie from 1994, a vampire flick that doesn't do a lot of the stuff that you want from a vampire movie, but maybe we can get into that when we get to the plot synopsis. But we're talking about Interview with a Vampire. Now, it was released on November 11th of 1994. Director Neil Jordan, written by the author of the books, Anne Rice. It starred, this is A-list as it gets cast, okay?
Oh, yeah.
You got Tom Cruise, Yeah.
Banger.
Brad Pitt, 1994 Brad Pitt too.
Yeah.
Oof.
Before he learned how to act, he was just a pretty face.
He was. There are some, especially very early performances of his that are incredibly cringy, especially anything they had him do an accent. I don't know if you've seen The Devil's Own, but his accent in that is just, man, it ain't great. But accents that really get you going here. Antonio Banderas is in this one. I didn't even try to do an accent there. It just happened when I said his name.
It happens.
Because I feel that. A very young Kirsten Dunst is in this. And let's not forget Christian Slater.
Christian Slater getting a whopping 2.5 minutes of screen time in this 2-hour film, but doing a good job. I want to say everyone did a pretty good job, except for Brad Pitt, who was on screen 98% of the time. He was the only one where you're like, come on. Is he just pouting? He's just making a pouty face now.
There's a lot to Brad Pitt. He's a multifaceted. He was doing a lot of subtle stuff. You know, when he sort of has that vacant stare, that's subtle.
I always thought this movie was titled Interview with a Vampire, but it is The Vampire. And not just any old vampire. A mistake that I have made for 28 years.
I kind of have to forgive that a little bit because maybe at this point, Louis thinks that he's the only vampire left because it's been some years since he's seen Lestat, right?
Right.
So maybe he is like, oh, I am the vampire. I'm the only one. Maybe.
That's a fair point.
Or maybe it's just a grammatically incorrect movie title and we've discovered it before anyone else.
Got him.
Here on Uncle Doug's DVD bin. Hard-hitting facts you get. Well, why don't we move over to some of those reviews? Now, we source these. We go to great lengths to find these particular reviews. Now, why don't you take me through some of the reviews that you found on the only place to find quality movie reviews, which is the interwebs.
Right. And you got Letterboxd, which is spelled weirdly. You just type Letterboxd and you get done, put a D on the end. And then there's a bunch of reviews there. I like the reviews there because people aren't afraid to get in there and bash it, but you also, that's not the whole culture. There's a lot of people in there that like to praise movies. So you got that nice spectrum of reviews. Some people love it. Obviously, it's a very popular movie. It came out in 1994. A lot of people were into it. This is a 5-star from Revolving Moss, who says, without any grammatical attempt, just two vampire guys being vampire dudes, doing vampire dude things like adopting a vampire daughter to save their crumbling relationship.
That's the most bro vampire. That's the most bro vampire response or movie critique that you could ever expect.
I know, and the thing is, it's a movie that I don't think a lot of bro types would appreciate. But this person was like, "Oh, just a couple bros being bros, biting bros, sucking on bros, raising a bro daughter." What a bro movie.
It's such a bro movie. What else you got? Now, it seemed like he liked that one, right? He thought that was pretty good.
Seemed into it, yeah. Some people are kind of meh. There's always that middle of the road group who just didn't really know what to think. We have one here from a Jizz Clown who says, it's fine. Drags in places. Other places have tonal issues where wacky music is accompanying a scene where it shouldn't. Brad Pitt is kind of boring in this. Kirsten Dunst steals the show, and Tom Cruise hamming it up is fun. Lots of fun and interesting stuff in this movie, but not executed in the best way. I do like how every character is a rotten, evil monster, and the ending was good. So, yeah, they're kind of, little this, little that, little boring here, pretty exciting there. So, this person, meh.
All of them were rotten, evil monsters. Yeah, really, they kind of were. Mm-hmm. There weren't a lot of redeemable characters in this movie.
I can't think of a one. Here now, people were low on it too. Obviously, we have some detractors. There's always going to be detractors. This one, 1/2 star, which is a unique thing about Letterboxd. You can get all the way down to that 1/2 star if you want to. You can slap a movie right in the face. This is from Gitbag. Absolutely stumped why this film has the large and dedicated following that it does. Only good performance was from Tom Cruise, and he was barely in the film. Uninspired cinematography, dull characters, bad acting, pretentious and meaningless fluff masquerading as meaningful dialogue, all capped off with a stinky soundtrack. Only good scene was the last one, as it was just before the credits.
Ooh, Man, Get Back, you put the stake in the heart of that movie. You really just didn't care for it. I would say I did think the cinematography was okay in this, and the incomparable Stan Winston did the visual effects on this. And if you've watched a movie from the 90s that still looks good, it's probably Stan Winston worked on it. Like the visual effects, especially I'm thinking about that scene where Kirsten Dunst actually turns into a vampire, looks really good even by today's standards. What doesn't look good though, and I'm gonna go with Get Back on this, is anytime they go to the swamp, it looks atrocious. I don't know who built those sets. The things that they put in there that are supposed to be trees don't look anything like those cypress trees. It looks nothing in there. It looks like they've just went to what was the planet in Avatar? Like they just went to an alien world. None of the flora and fauna make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, it almost like because they had to get a good alligator in there. So it's almost like they went to a place where some guy was keeping alligators and tried to block out all of the stuff, like his pickup truck and stuff, and tried to shoot a scene there. But yeah, no, I agree. Everybody here is correct. And then we have a 1-star. So he likes it a little bit more than Get Back, who was a half-star. We got Dan Bruce, using his actual factual name, we assume. He says, my partner wanted, and I think this is hilarious because no one else has ever done this. My partner wanted to do a Kirsten Dunst movie marathon, and I actually haven't seen many films that she's been in, or can't remember them because it was so long ago. So we started with this one, and wow, what a train wreck of a film. Brad Pitt is cringeworthy, Tom Cruise can't reel it in, and Antonio Banderas does nothing but mumble with his vampire teeth in. Kirsten Dunst was the best part, and it was nice seeing Christian Slater in something again, but won't be watching this one again or recommending it.
Wow, I do agree with him. Kirsten Dunst was really good in this.
Oh, yeah.
She was. I mean, for her age, the emoting she was able to do in the performance and the way she was able to be in some of the scenes with, like, I mean, at the time you got to go like, oh man, this is Tom Cruise
right?
and Brad Pitt, and she's standing toe to toe with him.
Exactly.
Way to go, Kirsten Dunst.
No, I agree with that 100%.
Still don't know if it's worth having a Kirsten Dunst movie. I can only think of Spider-Man that she's been in.
Bring It On.
Yeah, Bring It On. Oh, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, why not?
No vampires, though.
You know, judging by the DVDs that we've already found in Uncle Doug's bin, you know, we got Dirty Dancing, Interview with the Vampire. I'm sure Bring It On is going to fit right in there. So one of these days.
100% in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to jump in on the plot of this amazing film. I've kind of ragged on it, but there's some cool stuff they do. Early on, I don't know if you remember the credit scene. There was some the title card in this movie looks like somebody made it in like Microsoft Publisher. Like it doesn't look very good. But they do this sort of like drone, or I guess they didn't have drones at the time, helicopter sort of footage in that comes to street level, and it is then like the camera's moving among the street people of San Francisco. And I thought that was pretty cool, like a vampire coming in and landing and then just sort of walking among the people. So I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah, and it kind of threw me for a loop because not knowing a ton about this movie, most of it takes place in a different time. So when it opened up that way, I was like, what in the heck is going on? Did I have the right movie in? What is happening? It says Christian Slater's in it, so I guess we're in the right place. And speaking of Christian Slater, we open up to I guess it's an apartment room. It's somewhere where Daniel Malloy, who's being played, who Christian Slater is in this movie, he's setting up some recording equipment, getting ready to do a little bit of an interview. Oh, I wonder who it's going to be with. Oh,
I bet it's the vampire.
could be. It could be the one that we're aware of anyway.
There's some dialogue that happens early in this scene where Christian Slater's like, yes, I was following you because you were interesting. Dude, what? You didn't even know he was a vampire? You're just following interesting people around the street? I mean, I get being like a hard-boiled reporter, but get some tips or some leads or something so you're not just following strangers around.
Yeah, this is that's a restraining order, sir. But I could see maybe, you see a guy that looks like Louis, Pitt's character here, a little pale, very veiny, walks with a distinct gait, very often with blood around his lips. I might follow that guy, but from a distance. I'm definitely not going to invite him to a room and talk to him.
Travis, you're a brave man. You are, but I don't think you're going to follow the creepy bloodmouth guy around. I just don't see it. I don't see it. I don't mean to. And I love this scene too because it starts and Brad Pitt is doing what he does for about 96% of this movie, brooding and looking out the window, just brooding and staring off into space.
Yes. And when every time he starts talking in a movie, I'm like, yep, still Still Brad Pitt. But I was very thankful, and I think you and I talked about this before recording. I'm very thankful he didn't even attempt a Creole accent.
Thank God.
I'm so happy he did not.
That was a good. That was probably the director Neil Jordan just said, "Hey, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it."
I'm trying to think if I don't think Lestat or Kirsten Dunst's character had an accent. But I mean, if they did, maybe it tailed a little bit more toward like proper English.
Right.
But Pitt, no, just I'm a vampire. Like he's got marbles in his mouth.
Mm-hmm. And so Slater, a.k.a. Daniel Malloy, does not believe that Brad Pitt is a vampire. And so Brad Pitt just goes and runs over and turns a light on because that proves he's a vampire because he can move and turn a light on quickly. And then Slater's all in. He's like, yep, you're absolutely, A, you were interesting. B, you can turn lights on. I believe you were a vampire.
When I saw that, I was thinking like, okay, would that have convinced me? If I were in Slater's shoes, I've invited a man that I have stalked across the city to talk to me and be recorded. If he just got up real quick, turn off the lights real quick, would I be like, okay, all right, you're a vampire.
Yeah, you've already committed. If you've been stalking this guy around the city, you want to believe whatever he's spinning. And so this is when the actual interview with the vampire starts, and we find out a little bit about Louis's backstory.
Yeah, so New Orleans. So harkening back to the Creole accent, we're happy that he wasn't doing New Orleans 1791. And out of the gate, we see Brad Pitt, very handsome guy. He's young. I think he's about 24 in the movie, maybe 26, somewhere in there in his 20s. But his family dies, and he goes into a grief spiral, a drunken, gambling grief spiral, as you might expect.
He's out doing what my great Aunt Sally would have called carousing with the drunkards.
Yeah, and there was a scene where he was just day drinking near a statue in a graveyard, which, that's a bad day for a guy that's lost his family.
Shit's got real if you're day drinking in a graveyard. Like I've been pretty sad before, Travis, but I've never been day drinking in a graveyard. So we see a scene where Louis sitting there playing cards. He's got his lady friend who is probably a sex worker, and the guy he's playing cards with is like, "Nah, I'm gonna shoot you. You definitely cheated." And he's like, "Oh, go ahead, cool, whatever." He opens his shirt up because obviously the shirt would have kept the bullet from hitting his chest. So, he's inviting. At this point, though, we get the idea he's inviting in death.
That's right. And I can't remember exactly how they get outside. It seems like they're on a wharf. There's some hanky-panky about to take place. And Lestat, he jumps in and he interrupts and takes her out and gets a snacking on our man Louis. But doesn't kill him, lets him live because of what you're talking about. He's invited in death. He's going to give him a choice.
He's like everyone else in this movie, immediately obsessed with Louis. And I guess that's why you have to have Brad Pitt, because you see the guy and you go, oh, yeah, I'm really obsessed. I was a little questioning of Lestat's use of subterfuge here in that he had none. He just, in the middle of this wharf, we see there's plenty of people around. He murders this sex worker and her pimp, right? Kills both of them, grabs Louis up, bites him on the neck, flies up in the air for everyone in all of Nolans to see, and then drops him back down. You're like, what's the point? Like, what's the point of trying to be this hidden nighttime sneaky vampire if you're just going to shout out, "Hey guys, I'm over here murdering Brad Pitt"?
Yeah, I didn't, you reminded me of him flying up in the air part because that seemed very unnecessary to the whole part. Like when I watched that, I was like, is this just to show that he has some special powers and it's not just a street creeper running around biting people on the neck? Like, was that just to show that he had this extra element of, no, for real, this vampire, this is for real.
And I've spent time praising the visual effects, but I'm gonna like knock this one a little bit, because if you go back and you watch it, you see like they you can't see the cables or anything, but you see little Tom Cruise's feet just wiggling, like dangling in the air, and it doesn't look like he's actually lifted on his own power or volition, which is kind of hilarious.
Yeah, definitely obvious and not great. But so we have that. And then he brings him back down, and we get that choice. He gives them a choice. You can either die at this moment or become a vampire. And I'm gonna knock Louis here. He didn't ask enough questions. I would have maybe dug in a little bit. Give me some pros and cons.
It's not much of a choice, really. Sort of like, hey, would you rather be hit in the head with this rock or this slightly larger rock?
I guess, but it seems as though moving forward, we determined that Louis would have, if you give him the pros and cons list and said, listen, pros, you're going to get to hear the Cure album in a couple hundred years. It's going to be great. Or you have to eat people, and you have to eat people, or you just die. He might have been like, oh, the eat people thing. I don't know. I don't know about that. That seems rough. That seems real rough. Because he finds out very soon that that's what he has to do to sustain life, and he's not happy about it. He's like, he starts brooding all over again. He's like, oh, gosh dang.
He does. And you go, well, hey, you were getting eaten by a vampire, right? Like, you realize that's the deal. Like, they eat people, and then you're shocked by it? I don't know, Louis. I don't think Louis' family actually died of cholera or whatever they died of. I think they just ran away from his brooding and idiocy, I think is what actually happened. But Louis does. He eventually, in the cemetery and that big gothic, slightly romantic, making him a vampire scene, drinks Lestat's blood, and he becomes a full-fledged vampire.
Right, and that is, I want to say, one of the top 3 awkward scenes in the film when this goes down. A lot of, I don't know, ecstasy and a lot of Tom Cruise acting real hard and a lot of Brad Pitt just taking it.
There wasn't enough of Brad Pitt taking it in this movie, if you're asking me. So Louis and Lestat take up residence together in Louis' plantation. Now, I have a pretty big gripe here because Louis immediately has moral conflicts about killing and eating people, right? That's this conflict between him and Lestat. Lestat says, hey, man, it's great. Have a good time. You're a killer. You're a wolf, man. You're a lion. Very bro sort of mentality, right? Yeah. So get out there and kill people. Louis is like, no, I can't. I've got to brood about it. And yet he says, okay, I've got value for human life. And yet he has slaves. He has people that he's keeping in human bondage and has no moral issue with.
Yeah, it slaps you in the face. I don't know what people experienced when they saw this in 1994, but here in 2022, that was a very glaring, like, oh, really? We're not even going to talk about that.
Yeah, they just gloss over it, and you're like, no. Again, we one of the reviewers that we picked from the interwebs pointed this out. There's no really redeemable or good characters in this. I mean, we want to think Louis is, but no, he's kind of a scumbag. He's a slave owner. So now, obviously, the slaves that live on the plantation are freaked out by not only their owner, but also by Lestat because they don't eat any food. They think it's super creepy. And so we kind of get that feeling of unease that Louis not settling into being a vampire very well. And we see this manifest itself.
Yeah, and there's a scene where they are, I guess Lestat and Louis are quote-unquote passing around a lady that's there. And she thinks that she's there for a good time, but she's buttered biscuits to those guys. And it turns out that Lestat kills her. And Louis like, oh, gosh dang, man, why'd you have to go and do that stuff, man? And so then they have this scene where,
he dramatically, can I do a dramatic Brad Pitt reading here?
Please.
I will not take her life.
That was actually way better than what Brad Pitt did.
He should have called me. I would have been his acting coach.
Everything he said was through very clenched teeth, but at this point, I think Lestat's like, let's go hunting, and kind of shows him off this lady who's... But it's this wealthy old era. She's got a couple of poodles. She's old. She's probably a great granny, but they're going to murder her. They want to kill her. And so they take her out, and then they split up. Lestat, he goes his own way, takes out who I guess was like some type of, I don't know, he looks like a newsy type, and leaves Louis to the old lady and her 2 poodles. And Louis can't do it. He gets real close to the lady's neck. She's like, "Oh, why me? I'm so much older than you. Oh, you dreamy-eyed, long-haired sex scoundrel, you." And you think you go for the bite. Like at this point, I'm pulling for him to murder her. I'm like, you just do it. It's awkward now if you don't. And then the next scene, he's just wringing a poodle out over his head. Like, it's not good.
Like, one poodle wasn't enough. Louis had to eat both poodles here, and she's like screaming, "Oh, he's a murderer! He's eating my..." Instead of like, okay, I love my dogs, man. I do. I love my dogs more than life itself. But if some strange man's eating both of them, I'm running away. I'm not standing there to shout, "Help, murderer, help!" No, I'm leaving.
Yeah, that was the thing that grabbed me, like right when it cuts back, because I think Lestat's mid doing his thing, and he's like, "Oh, a scream! What on earth?" And he runs over there, and it's just the lady like on all fours beating the ground, knowing like the deed had been done for a number of seconds. She had watched the whole thing, which honestly tugs at my heart. Might be the saddest part of the whole movie.
It is. Those poor poodles. I requiem for the poodles. That should be the alternate title of Interview with a Vampire.
But Lestat puts her out of her misery, thankfully.
So we jump back to modern day, and we see Malloy asking Brad Pitt about some of the tropes that we hear with vampires. Do they like garlic? Can you look at a crucifix? And really awkward line, Brad Pitt says, "I'm actually quite fond of looking at crucifixes."
Yeah.
Really weird.
Yeah, I would have expected, like, no, I fancy a little bit of garlic on the spaghetti. You know, I like a little, but no, he's like, I just like to stare at shapes.
Stare at basic geometric shapes. He does say that coffins are a necessity, but doesn't actually say why. Like, anything that kept daylight out would be fine. You don't have to sleep in a coffin, Louis. I don't know if anyone had mentioned that to him. Maybe he's just like, he shopped at Hot Topic a lot when he was a kid, and he just wanted the whole ambiance. But
yeah. He does love coffins.
So back in, we flash back in time to 1791, and one of Louis's slaves is expressing some concern about the change in his demeanor, never eating anything, never leaving during the day. And in a moment of weakness, Louis grabs her and eats her and feeds on her and kills her. Okay, and he has some turmoil about this. He's a little upset, right? So he walks out and he tells all the other slaves, which have gathered on the lawn with like torches and that sort of thing. And he says, "Leave here, I'm damned. You should get out of here." Instead of like, "Hey, I'm going to free you guys because it's wrong to keep people in bondage. That's wrong. I shouldn't have done that." He's like, "No, I'm..." And then he does the thing he does the other 4% of the movie. Now, I said 96% of the time he broods. The other 4% of the time he burns down structures.
Yes. Yeah, straight, just classic arsonist, super into it. Arson's his own house. What did the house do? The house wasn't biting people, man.
You're the problem, not the house. You could have just left. It's like Patrick Swayze going right to smashing out that window,
Yeah. I guess he wanted to hide the evidence, but it's like, come on, man, 1791. If you're not there, they might not know who did it.
Well, Louis almost gets turned into a crispy vampire, but Lestat swoops in, grabs him up, takes him to a crypt for some reason. Presumably, again, they don't have to be in a crypt or a coffin. They could have just killed some people and took their house. That would seem like something Lestat would do. But no, he says, "I'm going to go to the crypt."
Yeah, go hanging out in the crypt. And this is when they start, the disagreements start airing. They start airing that dirty laundry. Like, hey, man, look, I just don't want to be out here killing people and sucking on human blood. I don't think it's groovy, I think was a line from the film.
That's word for word. You got that right. And we start to see some of that relationship break down between the two of them. And they do what a lot of couples do when their relationship starts to break down is they decide they need a kid. They decide that's the perfect time to bring a child into the relationship. But it happens in like the most terrible, perverse, macabre sort of way possible, right? So we get Louis wandering around the streets, moping, brooding, as he usually does, eating rats, trying to eat the rats to not eat humans. And he comes across a house. Now, I actually did look up to see if there was a plague going around New Orleans at that time because it didn't click in my head that was something that did happen in American history. There was. It was, I believe, yellow fever was going around and was killing a lot of folks. So he goes into this house. And if it's not, I'm sure someone on Twitter will tell us that we're wrong. And that's cool. Thank you. So he goes into this house. He finds Claudia, or at this point we just know she's a little girl, with her mom, who is dead and obviously gooey.
Yeah, she's I don't know the side effects of yellow fever, but at this point she was green and not alive, and had been that way for some time. Yet poor little Kirsten Dunst, who's Claudia, pawing at her dead mother like a cat and begging for her to come back to life. It's not a good sight. It's not very good.
That's so dark.
It was a rough scene. Honestly, it was.
It was. And Louis tries to comfort her, and he has another boo-boo. He has it's like we make our New Year's resolutions. I'm not going to eat any more Little Debbie cakes. And you eat more Little Debbie cakes, and you just can't stop. He eats Little Debbie in this case, or Little Claudia.
Yeah, and the whole time, that was one of the parts of the movie where I was real engaged in going, no. No, but I knew it was going there because I'm like, no, I recognize this actress. She's going to be in here for the long haul. She's getting a big bite. And she did, and it's rough, and it's pretty awkward, but it is also weird to me that the whole thing was predicated on this moral inhibition to bite people, yet he goes and bites the most vulnerable, pathetic child he can find, which is worse than just have bitten some random guy on the street. It was the worst option that he could have done. Could have made.
Scumbag Louis. Louis. I'm going to call him Scumbag Louis from now on. Right about the time that Brad Pitt has enjoyed a delicious child-sized snack, we see Lestat, who, again, creepily is following Brad Pitt. People get obsessed with him and just creepily follow him around, come in, and he's so excited that Brad Pitt, a.k.a. Scumbag Louis, has eaten a little girl. He picks up dead mom and has a little waltz with her around the room.
Honestly, at that point in time, kind of fun. I needed some comic relief at that moment, and I was like, thank God he's here to dance with a dead corpse, because this little girl situation is rough. But Brad Pitt, he has this moment where he's thinking, okay, well, she could die. The little girl could die. I would be overcome with guilt for the rest of my eternity here on this planet. Or maybe we can keep her around, make her a little bit of a vampire like us, And I'm thinking, oh, feed another mouth? We're having a hard time as it is, boys.
We are. Well, I think Lestat uses the opportunity to, you can say Louis is a scumbag, but Lestat is a scumbag in his own way. He is very emotionally manipulative. Like, I can see, I don't know if you've ever been in a toxic relationship, but I know I have, where he gets like his little needling comments in on like both Louis and Claudia later in the movie. So he turns Claudia as a way to emotionally manipulate Brad Pitt, but he's not very subtle about it. He literally just sits there and says, well, Louis was going to leave us, but now he's not, is he, little boo-boo?
That's right. Yeah, I kind of forgot that part because Brad Pitt thinks that he's killed her, and Lestat kind of gives him a bit of a present, a reprieve. Like, look, she's okay, kind of, sort of, not really, but she's not dead. How do you feel about that? And so something to hang over his head for sure.
Definitely. And much like that famous line from the Eugene O'Neill play, they were happy for a while. Right? Like, so they all decided Louis just gave up his moral objections to eating people, started eating people.
Yes. And you alluded earlier to her transformation. I wanted to speak about that a little bit because that did look really cool, and it gave me vibes of The Exorcist, like the little girl in that, the same.
It's like The Exorcist, but with a really amazing 1980s perm. Like, just popped right in place perfectly.
Just an old wig swap, yeah. But yeah, so yeah, as time passes, and I guess they don't really do a great job of telling you how much time is passing, but you kind of get a sense that Claudia realizes, like, it doesn't seem like I'm getting much older. I've been a little girl for a few decades now, and I thought I would have at least gotten a little taller. It's weird that it takes, presumably years have gone by, and she doesn't really understand what she is. And I found that a little hard to believe, but they ended up telling her, they give her the news. They have the sit down as two vampire parents do with their vampire-ling, and tells how Lestat made her.
So she decides at this point that she hates them both. She runs off for a little while. Louis broods. They come back. They meet in the apartment, Louis and her, and Claudia tells him, hey, Louis, you're the parent that I relate to the most. I love you the most. Let's kill Lestat. And then we can run off together, and we don't have him around making his snide little comments and whatnot.
Yes, which at this point I'm pretty for. Tom Cruise does a great job of being a very you use the word needling villain here, where you want him away from you because he's going to do something dark and gestury that you don't want to be a part of. And so getting away from him is great. And she hatches a really good plan that involves the death of 2 innocent boys, unfortunately.
Yes. Again, everyone is terrible in this movie. She gives laudanum to these 2 boys, and I don't know about the scientific validity of this. Travis, you have a PhD, so you'll probably be able to immediately know whether this is true or not. But if you OD someone on laudanum, their blood stays warm.
Yeah, as having a PhD in engineering, I can say with absolute certainty that is true. It keeps it just a little tepid. Yeah.
So smart. You're so smart. So Lestat feeds on these 2 dead children. These 2. I don't know if they were twins, but I think they were supposed to look like twins anyway. It's sort of a what was the chewing gum that had the twins for a while? Double mint. Gum. These were the double mint of the vampire world. So I guess presumably a tasty delicacy for Lestat. So he feeds on them, and they have the dead bloods, which makes him sick. And he tries to get to his coffin, and man, Claudia is on him with a pair of scissors and cuts his throat. And this looked really good. Again, this was a scene where the visual effects really stood out. You could see the life draining from Lestat.
Yeah, he gets real ghoulish. I mean, it is a really good look. And already, especially Cruise in this movie, looked gaunt as is. He already looked a little unlike Tom Cruise. He looked like Vampire Tom Cruise. It was well done. But that transformation into his ghoul-like form was really, really good. I rewound it a couple times because I was a bit in awe of it, considering the swamp that we saw earlier. I was like, the different people did these things.
Well, speaking of that swamp, they're headed right back here to dump Lestat's body. Bloop, they dump his body, and we see an alligator go into the water and blood come a-bubbling up. Now, of course, we assume that means the alligator ate Lestat. But we find out after there's a few little things that happen here. We see Louis and Claudia being happy, and they're planning a big trip to Europe. Well, they come back to their apartment, and boom, Lestat is sitting there playing the piano.
He loves that piano. He'll revisit that a few times. And that was the part of the movie where I had to think back and be like, okay, I'm pretty sure I just saw that guy die. Like, for real. He got ingested. And I was sort of like, all right, so can you kill him at all? I wasn't even really convinced that maybe he bit the alligator first. I was like, maybe he just keeps recycling himself and there's no escape. He's just this oppressive thing that's going to be around this whole movie. And that made me ill because I didn't like him. He was mean.
Well, we've all had exes like that, I'll tell you.
Oh,
so I'll give you 2 guesses, but you're only going to need 1. What does Louis do in this circumstance?
I'm going to guess sets the house on fire.
Boom, you nailed it. Only needed 1. That's right. He sets the entire ward that they were living in on fire, basically. And him and Claudia escape onto a boat headed for the old world, or Europe, as we call it now. They called it exclusively the old world back in the 1790s.
They did. And so they travel out to Europe looking for some other vampires, looking for some other vamps, as we're calling them, some folks to hang out with. It's good to have a community. Maybe they know where the food is, a good source that isn't people and is maybe still scrumdiddlyumptious. And it takes a while. They think for a bit they're the only ones. Eventually, they meet a vampire named Santiago who's playing little tricks in the street. What's this guy all about? Doing some wall walks? What's going on?
Yeah, he is, and he sort of plays with Louis a little bit, teases him a little bit, and Louis is rightfully a little miffed. He's thought, hey man, I'm this brooding, gothic, very serious creature. Every other vampire should be, and this guy, I've looked all over the world, and he's dancing around and slapping my hat off and irritating me. And then, right at the peak of his irritation, Antonio Banderas shows up as Armand.
Yes, Armand, another handsome, classic look, long hair, flowing vampire. I guess they all just know how to look the same way. It's interesting, but they run a Theater de Vampires, and that's they run a little organization, a little side hustle.
Which, if I were traveling the world looking for vampires, I would start at the Theater with Vampires. That's where I would have started, Scumbag Louie.
Would that have seemed like a trap? Would you be like, they wouldn't just have it out there on the name tag, would they?
Yeah, it's like a big guy named Tiny, you know. It's definitely a dodge. It's a trick, you know. It's a shell game, man. Armand invites them to the Théâtre des Vampires. Gosh, I bet people are gonna love the way I'm hitting these accents. I mean, they are bold and in charge.
Very bold, for sure. Yeah, invites them out there to a little stage show, and it gets weird pretty quick.
And does it?
And it's weird because as an audience watching the movie, I kind of knew like pretty soon what was happening. That they're gonna, they're doing a little bit of a stage show with vampires, but they're doing a thing out in the wide open with an audience and everything, where one of the people that look like they're a part of the play are actually going to be lunch. And they seem like they kind of... The interesting thing is, I feel like this person also knows that they're about to get eaten, and they're on a stage, but they're not really like communicating that or trying hard enough to escape in the middle of this play. So it's a little bit confusing, but essentially, in a live show, them vampires are just out there feasting. It's nice.
I've got some questions about the French. Oh, we forgot to mention they were in Paris, by the way. That's where they found the theater.
Yeah.
And you and I both do improv, and I always think about when I bring an audience member on stage to play a game with us. I always think like, man, I hope they haven't seen this scene in Interview with a Vampire, because we're literally just going to make you say funny words. Like, that's all we're going to do. Everything's fine. Let me allay your concern. So they watch the show. Louis is, of course, horrified. He thinks it's monstrous. Armand talks to him after the show and says, hey, I'm really interested in getting to know you a little bit better. Santiago is very suspicious of Claudia. Now, if we remember way back to a previous scene, Tom Cruise, a.k.a. Lestat, tells us that some vampires can read minds. So Armand both knew Lestat, Santiago knew Lestat, and so they start to get suspicious, maybe catching some little inklings out of little Claudia's mind about how she murder-killed Lestat.
That's if the mind reading part wasn't in there, it would have been really confusing as to how they would have known. And so just that little nugget was important to hang on to. And you get a feel that, okay, all right, these people kind of have an inkling that Claudia did a no-no, and that's no good. But also, she's here, and the fact that she exists as a kitty vampire, which is also frowned upon, is a no-no. So something's afoot, and they don't trust or like Louis or Claudia.
That's the double mint of bad vampire. I have a quick question. If a vampire had a tattoo on their lower back, would it be called a vamp stamp? Okay, sorry. Yeah, I've been trying to get it in naturally. Been trying to get that dad joke in there, and I just had to wedge it in there as unnaturally as possible. So, besides, I want to put a little levity in here because we're about to have some dark stuff happen. Now, Armand has made an appeal to Louis and says, "Hey, why don't you come partner up with me? We'll be companions. I can teach you the ways of the Force, young Padawan, or how to be a vampire." And Claudia intuits this, knows that Armand is going to take away her beloved Louis, and so she basically just walks around for a while and says, this lady's good enough. I'll make her my companion. So she brings this lady, who I think is a dressmaker, maybe doll maker, something like that. Anyway, a tradesperson of some sort, back to the apartment and says, Louis, you're going to leave me, so I want you to make her into a vampire. Louis, of course, has to brood about it for a while and decides to go ahead and turn this woman into a vampire.
Getting Claudia a new mommy, which will be great for her, I think. But it doesn't last long, unfortunately. So he makes her a vampire. He's kind of reluctant about it. But it's very, very immediately the Parisian vampires come and they take Louis, the woman, and Claudia, split them up, throw Louis in a metal coffin, which he used to be into. He was like, dude, I dig coffins. They're great. It's pretty dark in here, until they cement him in a wall in one, make him hard to get to. Can't escape. He's stuck in there. And then they take, and this is rough, take Claudia and her fresh new mommy. This is a newly minted mommy. This is not 10, 15 minutes into their relationship. Throws them in a pit. It looks like a dark pit at first. You're like, this will be fine. They'll be okay. They might starve to death, but they're vampires. They were going to anyway. But then the sun comes up and it shines right over the top, and you can see it slowly happening, and they're trying to scurry into the far-reaching recesses of the little spot they're in, but they cannot escape the sun, and they just fry. But I'm going to say this: they had big poofy dresses. They didn't even try to get under them.
Didn't even try to like cover up a little bit. They're just like, this is it. So we discover that Armand knew that this was going to happen. In fact, if you're asking me for my opinion, Trav, and I know you are, I think Armand set the whole thing up so that he could have Louis to himself.
It seems that way. For a 400-year-old vampire who seems to know an awful lot about what's going on, for him to catch on to this just a minute too late was a little too convenient.
And also, none of the vampires in this are subtle. You always think vampires, like especially Dracula, you read Bram Stoker's Dracula, you're like, he used some deception, he found ways to worm his way, he used some subterfuge. No, none of that here. Armand is just right out there, obviously. So he releases Louis from the metal coffin. Now, Louis goes into a rage, right, when he finds Claudia, who's, at this point, like, if you've smoked a cigarette and there's a whole bunch of ash on there, and you finally tip the cigarette and the ash comes off, that's what happens to Claudia. She just falls apart like cigarette ash in the wind, and that sends our man scumbag Louis into a rage.
We'll say a bit of a delayed rage, because I really honed in on his response to having turned the only, Claudia was a big part of his life. She's all he had, really. And he just barely touched her, and she became just a big old pile of nothing, and he has no expression for a solid 7 seconds. He just stares. He just kind of stares. I'm like, come on, man, this is sad. Come on, you can be upset. This is okay. Right now you can wear it on your sleeve. He does brood.
Yeah. He gets that scythe that we've seen earlier in the movie that they were using for a prop in the Théâtre des Vampires, right? And first of all, as someone who has been a prop master, I can say that using a sharp scythe as a real prop on stage is a big no-no, but that's what they did, and they paid the price, because Louis goes ripping through here, cutting people up, and then, guess what, Travis? I'm going to give you 2 guesses, but you're only going to need one. What does he do now?
Oh, I don't know. Does he finally find those matches and set things aflame?
You bet your sweet britches he did.
Nice. And there's a lot of torches going around. I mean, if you know anything about the 1791, not a lot of electricity going on, but there was some guy, some unsung hero that went around and lit every candle in torch at night on a nightly basis, and it gets a credit in any classical book or anything. So that guy, hero.
It's the same guy that lights them in dungeons and video games. It's the same guy.
Yeah, heck of a guy. Just, again, unsung,
hardworking tradesperson there. So Armand, after Louis goes into this fit of rage, wipes out the entire coven. Armand comes to him and says, "Hey, you thought any more about being my companion? We'll go do some stuff."
Which is weird, right? It's like, hey, I know you've killed a lot of my friends and burned down most of what I've built, but do you still want to hang out? And Louis is like, no, I don't know if you can tell right now, but I'm upset, and no, I don't want to.
That's I have a very similar story. I had a girl that I really liked that I was dating, and she broke up with me, and I said, "Hey, do you still want to be friends? Do you still want to hang out?" She looked me dead in my eyes, Travis, right in my eyes, and she said, "I don't even like you."
Oh.
And this was scumbag Louis looking at Armand and saying, "I don't even like you."
Slap in the face.
So Louis travels the world a bit more. Eventually, he decides to go back to his homeland of New Orleans.
Goes back to New Orleans and walks into his old spot, his old stomping grounds there. Some of that old plantation house still up, despite having been set aflame not long before. And guess who he finds sitting there, living alone, just sitting in a chair, staring out of a moonlit window? Who would it be? I mean, do you think about all the people that we've come across? Who could be in there waiting and
Jerry Orbach. It was Jerry Orbach. No, I'm sorry. That was Dirty Dancing. It was Neil Patrick Harris.
Neil Patrick Harris is also a good guess. It was actually our pal Tom Cruise and his crooked vampire teeth Lestat living there alone in that old plantation house, but looking worse for wear. You know, these vampires, they bounce back quick, but the licking he took set him back quite a bit. He's not doing hot. It doesn't look like.
Well, physically they bounce back quick, but emotionally, I think we can say that time does not heal all wounds. And there's a nice role reversal that happens here. Now Lestat is the one sort of living in fear of the modern world and like eating rats, and he's afraid to leave the burned hovel that he now resides in. Don't know where his coffin is, but he has to have one, right? Because you got to have one.
You have to have. That's part and parcel. Yeah. Yeah, but Louis like, gosh dang, man, that's rough. I was also one, like you, but he manages to leave. He doesn't take advantage of Lestat's semi-outer weakened state. Doesn't burn anything down. Just walks away.
That shows emotional growth right there, Travis. That shows emotional growth.
Yeah, without showing any emotion at all. Somehow, yes.
Well, this is pretty much the end of the interview portion of Interview with the Vampire. So we're back in modern day, or 1994 is when the movie is set, and the interview is wrapping up. All right, and Louis says that's the end of my story, and Daniel Malloy's like, that can't be the end. I mean, this. Then we as the audience are also thinking the same thing. Like, this can't be the ending.
Yeah.
This isn't a very good. This is kind of I need more. I need some juice. I need some sizzle on my steak. You know what I'm saying, Travis?
I know. I kind of felt with Malloy's character Christian Slater there. I was like, yeah, give us an ending. Come on, eat Christian Slater. Do something here. We got. I see the run times dwindling. Something needs to happen.
Well, Christian Slater, or Daniel, says, hey, you can't have told me all of this. You definitely want to turn me into a vampire. And just as startling contrast to the entire story that he's spent an entire evening listening to, clearly Louis doesn't want to turn you into a vampire. He's telling you how awful it is, and yet you're just like, oh, well, that's the thing. That's what he's doing here.
Yeah, and like the viewer, Louis also becomes a bit enraged by this Malloy not getting it. We just sat here for 2 hours and watched some of the weirdest cinema ever put on screen to get this story to you, and you just didn't get it. You're like, no, being a vampire would be pretty sweet. I'd love to live forever and just eat people, right? Come on. Louis doesn't like. He's not into it.
In a flurry of rage, I mean, really, I would refer to this as a huff. It really looked like he was in a huff. He just exits the room. He does that weird fast movie thing. He doesn't flip a light switch this time. He just leaves the room, right? He's gone. And this is the last we see of Louis in the movie. Now, our pal Daniel Malloy is a little frightened, a little scared at this point. So he runs out and hops into his convertible 60s era Mustang. Now, it's important that it's convertible. This is a very convenient fact. All right. So he's driving across the Golden Gate Bridge.
Our buddy Lestat notices, hey, look down there, convertible top, wide open, swoops in, biting Malloy, and promising him the same promise that he levied to Louis earlier. I'm going to give you the choice that he never had.
And that's it. I mean, that's pretty much the end of the film. One thing that stood out to me in this particular scene, Christian Slater's character, Daniel Malloy, takes the cassette tape and slides it into the deck and immediately starts listening to the interview over. I just say that was weird. It was like, you were just there. Was he like, oh, I couldn't believe this just happened? I need to listen to the tape to make sure. Or was he like, or did he have that moment like you and I as podcasters know, like, oh, poop street, did I hit the record button? We've been talking for an hour. Did I actually hit the record button or not?
Yeah, could have been that, or similarly with some of the podcast experiences I've had. Did I hit that joke about 3 minutes in? Because it felt good coming out. I want to hear back and see how the timing landed. But yeah, I don't know. It was kind of like, was he kind of sniffing his own farts in terms of his interview prowess, or was he in disbelief? Like, can vampires even be recorded? Hopefully his voice is on here. I'd love to take this to the local news or something. Be famous for capturing this narrative. I don't know.
And is it actually called a vamp stamp? Well, the film made a box office of $223.7 million on a $60 million budget, which, man, you couldn't even hire a Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt for $60 million these days. I mean, money has definitely changed. Interview with a Vampire. Now, that ended up being a huge moneymaker for Geffen Film Company, and Warner Brothers distributed this, I believe. And the film also drove Anne Rice's book sales, making her one of the most popular authors in the country. Have you ever tried to read any of her books?
I have not, but fun fact, I did one time when I was in Los Angeles, I went to the Craig Ferguson show and she was a guest. So I've been in her midst. I've sat, I don't know, 50 feet from her.
Man, you've absorbed her essence. Maybe you like the books a little bit better than I didn't like them. It was a little flowery in the prose. I kind of was like, yo, Anne, can we get to the point here? I need some more vampire action, and you're just talking about people's shoelaces. Now, a dynamic performance in this for the relatively unknown Kirsten Dunst at the time put her on the map, and she had a big couple of years after this film. She did like Little Women, I think, in the same year, which was like that Winona Ryder adaptation that was really well received. And it set up one of the best upside down kisses of all time in the Spider-Man sequels, because without Interview with a Vampire, you would not have had Kirsten Dunst in the Spider-Man sequels. There was a spiritual sequel to this film in Queen of the Damned. It starred the late Aaliyah. It got kind of mixed reviews, wasn't real great, wasn't as beloved as this particular film. Also, I just saw that they're looking at a possible upcoming AMC TV series based off of the Interview with a Vampire series of books.
Interesting. And maybe it would have done better that way originally. But I want to say also, I just want to praise Kirsten Dunst in this role, because I think she really did a good job. Like, no bid here. Like, she really was impressive for as young as she was to hang with the likes of that cast and be very good, very convincing.
She was, yeah. So Interview with a Vampire also spawned a series of comic books, and definitely more than a few kids doing trips to Hot Topic back in the 90s and early 2000 aughts.
So, without Hot Topic, I mean,
where would I have gotten my Korn t-shirts back in 2002?
Exactly. Korn t-shirts, bracelets with spikes on them that were just uncomfortable, but we had them anyway.
We did. Well, I don't think there's anything else to say about this. You got anything else to add, Trev?
No, not really. I'm glad we watched. I'm glad I checked it off the old bucket list. It's a big one that I've been meaning to watch, and now that I have, I can move on with my life.
That was what was holding you back, huh? The Interview with a Vampire. Well, if you enjoyed this podcast, you might like our other shows. For more Travis, head on over to polymedianetwork.com and check out his other podcast. I love Tales of the Lesser Media. It's one of my favorite podcasts out there. And if you're welcome. And if you like me, you can check me out on the tabletop board gaming podcast, Blue Peg, Pink Peg. I'm on there. It's a bi-weekly podcast, so definitely check that out. We want to thank our pal Harvest Black for the theme song, and just like our Uncle Doug always says,
don't be afraid. I'm going to give you the choice I never had.